Wedding season is here. If you clicked on this video, you are gearing up to make your own wedding cake, or you're a friend or family member who has graciously volunteered to make a wedding cake for someone you love. Let me give you some tips that'll help the process run much smoother and bring some things to your attention that you may not have considered before. So let's get into it. The most important thing to know is whether or not your reception venue allows cakes from unlicensed kitchens. Now, if you're having a backyard wedding and someone is hosting you at your home, this is not an issue. However, some reception venues have their own preferred food vendors and also preferred cake vendors. While these venues usually offer more flexibility in where you get your cake, they may still have that basic requirement of the cake coming from a licensed location, whether that be a bakery or a restaurant. No matter the place, they must have a license on file, usually with the State Board of Health. Venues require this for liability purposes. So in case someone does get sick, there is insurance that will cover a claim. If your reception venue has this requirement, you will not be allowed to make your own wedding cake or have a friend or family member make that wedding cake at their home. So be sure to check this requirement before you proceed. Next, you want to figure out how many people will be in attendance. Now, this will help determine the size of your cake. If you're expecting closer to 30, 50 people or so, a two-tiered cake will get you to where you need to be. Also, keep in mind that not everyone will eat cake, so it's always best to err on the side of a more conservative number to reduce waste. The more people in attendance, the larger your wedding cake needs to be. There's also a tradition in the US of the married couple saving the top tier of their wedding cake to have to eat on their first anniversary. So that's one thing to consider, and also one thing to ask about, because that may impact the overall size of the wedding cake. Next, you'll want to decide the flavors of your cake. It's your special day, so you get to decide. The traditional flavor of wedding cake in the US is white cake, typically with vanilla frosting. But the sky is the limit, and you can pretty much do whatever you want to do. You'll need to select a flavor for your cake layers and also a flavor for your frosting, so don't forget those two things. Next, you'll need to decide on your cake design. A wonderful place to start is the internet. I would suggest that you look for inspiration on Pinterest and then also take a look at Instagram for other ideas. If you're subscribed to any wedding-related print or digital content like a magazine, or there's a blog you're following, you can get some really great ideas there too. There's so much out there, and you are bound to find some great visuals to give you ideas for your wedding cake design. Next, you'll want to take some time to practice baking and cake decorating techniques. Now, this is where the real work comes in. You'll want to make sure that you have down baking moist cake layers, frosting a cake, how to stack a cake, which I have a video linked in the description where I show you in detail how to do that. You also want to make sure you are doing your texturing techniques, whether that's smoothing your cake or using a cake comb on the sides of your cakes. Also, learning or brushing up on some buttercream piping techniques. And finally, how to work with decorations such as cake toppers and how to properly add flowers to your cake, which I also have a video linked in the description below where I take you step by step on how to do that. I would not recommend using fondant on your wedding cake, especially if you are a beginner. Frosting is a lot more forgiving in case there's a mishap, and also using fondant does come with a few special things that you may need to keep in mind when you're using fondant. Additionally, people generally do not like the texture or the taste of fondant, and they tend to peel it off. So again, just avoid fondant for your wedding cake. Other things to consider are storage of your wedding cake and transportation of your wedding cake. You'll want to make sure that you're able to store your cake in a cooler or refrigerator prior to transporting it to the venue. And then once you get to the venue, you want to have somewhere, again, a cooler or refrigerator to store the cake until the wedding reception, especially if the cake arrives hours and hours before the event. Transporting a cake to the venue is stressful in and of itself. You may choose to stack the cake ahead of time and transport it while it's stacked. You may also transport individual tiers to the venue and then stack it all together once you arrive. Again, just make sure that you have a plan so that you are not stressed out at the last minute. Next, it's a great idea to have a designated helper, whether you're the person getting married or you're the person who's volunteered to make the wedding cake. Having a helper to assist in handling the cake and making sure everything is in place helps to reduce stress and also helps in case there's any emergencies. If you've stayed to this point in the video, thank you so much for sticking around. Obviously, you clicked on this video because you want some tips and tricks on how best to make your own wedding cake. But I'm going to talk you out of it a bit. I know from personal experience that planning a wedding can be very, very stressful. And when you decide to make your own wedding cake, that is just one more thing that you have added to your plate. Most people start off with the idea that they are going to hire a professional baker to make their wedding cake, and they find out later, sooner or later, that it is expensive. Anything that is wedding related is automatically expensive because there is so much that is a la carte. Wedding cakes are typically priced by the slice. So for example, if a bakery quotes you $8 per slice and you are expecting about 150 guests, you're looking at about $1,200. For some people, that price is astronomical, especially when you think of the fact that you're buying a cake, people are eating the cake, so at the end of the day, you will not have anything to show for it. But I challenge you to weigh the pros and cons and really think about whether or not the cost of just having a professional take care of your wedding cake is worth that stress that comes off of you for your big day. So just keep that in mind. If you're the person getting married and someone has offered to make your wedding cake, making a wedding cake or any cake in general is stressful and it's a very time-consuming process, and it's not something to be taken lightly. Please consider compensating them, whether it's giving them money or giving them a special gift. You're saving about $1,200 by not paying a professional. So please show appreciation for the person who's taking on that task. Also, there is going to be a ton of flour and sugar and butter and eggs and milk and flavoring that goes into this cake. And I don't know if you've been to the grocery store lately, but have you seen the price of these ingredients? Let's just say it's not cheap, so keep that in mind. Finally, if you're not keen on having the traditional wedding cake, there are so many other alternatives out there. You can consider cupcakes or donuts or cookies. Just remember, it's your special day and you decide whatever you want, even if you decide to completely forego the traditional wedding cake. It's your big day, you can make it whatever you want. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like button and also consider subscribing to my channel for more cake decorating tips, tricks, and tutorials. As always, thanks for watching.